Okay, it's 6 o'clock, and I'm calling this meeting of the regular Charter Township Board meeting to order. Tom Coleman is not with us tonight, so can I get a motion for President Pro Tem for tonight's meeting?
I nominate Susan Morrow as President Pro Tem for tonight's meeting.
I'll second that or support that.
Okay, motion by Kathy, second by Bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Susan, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we have our invocation tonight, I just wanted to let everybody know that I didn't know this, that today is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. So we appreciate you. Let's bow our heads. Let's bow our heads together. Our Heavenly Father, we ask you to be with the board as we conduct the business of Plainfield Township. Be with our law enforcement team as they protect our homes, our lives. Guide us as we celebrate the beginning of a new year. Help us to look forward for the plans for our community. Let your light shine through us wherever we go, in whatever we do, that we may see the path. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first agenda item is public comments. If you have comments that do not relate to any of the subjects, okay, we'll be happy to hear from you. Please give us your name and address.
Thank you. My name is James Dykema. I'm at 43057 7 Mile Road. I am approaching the board tonight to seek some clarification. There's a gravel pit at 4640 Coit Avenue Northeast. It's been in the Planning Commission stage for a year now, seeking an extension. There was a soil removal permit that was approved on September 23rd, 2019 by the Township Board. Within that approval, there is a condition, I'll just read it. This approval shall be limited to a total of 3 years of mining and restoration, i.e. until December 31st, 2022, with an additional 6 months after, i.e. July 1st, 2023, for the removal of all mining-related equipment, buildings, and structures from the site. Unless otherwise provided in this document, all activities regulated by this license, including restoration, shall be completed not later than 3 years after the date of issuance of this approval. I know we all know that to have an extension for a soil removal permit, it requires steps of the Planning Commission and the Township Board. We all know that it is past 12/31/2022. There are still mining activities at this site. Today, I witnessed trucks going in and out, being loaded, and removal of material. I also witnessed trucks coming in and dumping material at this site. This site does not have a soil removal permit. So my clarification question to the board, and I hope you have some discussion about this, is I sent an email to the staff last week concerning this. I followed up with the official online portal complaint to the enforcement officer. And I was told this isn't happening or it's strictly in the restoration phase. As this continues to happen, it appears to me that you no longer need a soil removal permit to operate a gravel pit in Plainfield Township. And that is well and dandy. There are natural resources, but I want to be able to know that so I know for my future developments and such that we no longer need to abide by the rules and the ordinances. We just can remove soil. So I hope there's some guidance from this board so us as citizens can have a better understanding of how the ordinances work.
Thank you, James. I appreciate your comments, and the board appreciates your comments. And when we have public comments, we accept your comments, and then we will probably refer them through Cameron to the person who's going to be responding to you. But the board themselves will not discuss your request tonight. Okay? Thank you very much. Seeing no additional people in the audience, we can move on with our agenda. A motion to approve the consent agenda would be in order.
I move to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda and the accounts payable.
Support?
Motion by Mr. Hagedorn and support by Mr. Pfaff. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote. Mr. Brinkman? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
You must take over the whole board.
sorry.
Okay. Mr. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mrs. Merrill,
Yes,
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes.
Ms. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff,
Yes.
Ms. Postma, yes.
thank you. The motion carries. And this evening on our agenda is a presentation by our township superintendent, and we evidently are going to have a video also.
Just a PowerPoint.
Oh, PowerPoint.
Just a PowerPoint, no video, but I didn't get that fancy tonight. In fact, it's a little dry, it's all text, no pictures, so no falling asleep. I'll try to keep it brief, but since we had a relatively light agenda, I thought we would go through what our work plan is for this year and how it ties into our strategic plan. Just as a point of matter, we will have a upcoming agenda item. There's, as Jack is aware, there's been a petition to the township to extend a gravel mining permit at the location that Mr. Dykema was referring to. The planning commission, I believe, turned it down, recommended to turn it down to the board. That will come to the board at a later date. I think first meeting in March is the one that we're anticipating for that. So that issue will be coming before you, and so if you're a little caught unaware of what's going on, we'll make sure that you're up to speed on what's going on there. But that aside, let's dig into some of the items that we will be talking about this year. You've probably recall seeing this document before. This is our strategic plan that we've gone through a few times, put together, and we're about approaching midway through this plan, and we've got some good headway. Remind you of our strategic goals. We split our goals into four primary areas: economic development, infrastructure, public safety, and building community. And under each of those four goals, we have some specific tasks that we had intended to meet these four goals. So I'm not going to read every word on every slide because we've gone over these before more than once, but our first objective under economic development was to strengthen the vibrancy of retail demand of the Plainfield corridor by encouraging additional multifamily housing. So as we dig into that issue in 2023, a couple things to keep you up to date. We had been a part of the coalition put together by the Grand Rapids Chamber that was pushing the state to allow for more flexibility for local governments in addressing these housing issues. A whole package of bills that were creating opt-in incentives. It didn't force anything on a local government, but they're tools that we could use, just like we've done with the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. We've opted into that tool. So now there's a new set of tools that just were approved by the legislature and signed by the governor just in the last few weeks. So we'll be digging into that and seeing what of that package makes the most sense for Plainfield. Not every tool is going to make sense for every community or even for every project within a community, but we'll be digging into seeing how those best fit what we're trying to accomplish on the corridor. A lot of them involve either some sort of tax abatement or like the Brownfield, it's maybe a tax increment financing. So some of the tax growth that would come from that development, they can regain towards some of the development costs. So it helps make that, if you've got a project that's on the edge of viability or profitability, it can push it over so that the developer is just a little bit more inclined to take that project on. As we looked at last year, Kent County was trying to decide how to spend their federal funding, their ARPA funding. A big chunk of it is going into a new revolving loan fund for housing. Housing was identified as a crucial need in Kent County, and so now they've established a new loan fund. We don't know all the details of that yet, but that's another tool that will be out there and presumably available for developers as they're looking to build in Plainfield as well. And then continued work on Reimagine Plainfield implementation. We're going to encourage new development. We've reached out to a number of partners that are involved in the development industry through various organizations, and we're working with them to make sure that they're aware that that this is an opportunity for development. And for far too long, we had zoning in place that really prohibited the type of development and growth that we're currently looking for. And so it's time to get the word out there that it's a new day, and we're looking for a new type of investment in Plainfield Township. Feel free to stop me if you've got questions on the way. Otherwise, I'm going to keep cruising through this. So, goal number 2: expand the corridor improvement authority to include the entire Reimagine Plainfield study area. So those who've been around with the township for a while recall that we have a corridor improvement authority in place. It was established in 2007, and I think we all recall what the economy did around 2008, 2009, and especially with property values on the Plainfield corridor, most of those have not, as a whole, the property value in the corridor improvement authority area as a whole had not rebounded till just the last couple of years. So it was at such a suppressed value since 2007 that the way a TIF district, a tax increment financing district works, if the property values don't grow, there's no money to use for reinvestment. So it was a tool that's been dormant for a number of years now, but we want to expand that tool and include the entire Reimagine Plainfield study area so that we can put it to use in the whole area too. Right now, it only extends on the southern part of the corridor from 4 Mile up to Airway, and the intent is to go all the way to Grand River, to Northland Drive from Grand River Avenue up to the Grand River, and include all of that commercial area as well, and then extend a little bit into the residential areas next to it as well.
Question, how quickly can we do that?
So that's a higher priority item for this year. I would like to see that, so we'll need our township attorney to help us get through some of the documentation and get that rewritten and approved. It will take a matter of months, but I'd like to see us get on that and have it in place before June.
A question on the corridor, the empty lot on the corner of Plainfield and Jupiter, southeast side. Any movement on that? Any interest on that in terms of building?
So I haven't heard of anything new. There's been interest in the past. Different ideas kind of get thrown around, and different developers take a look at it. The tricky part with a lot of these, you've got a mix of whoever owns it and their motivation to move, and developer and their motivation to work within that framework. Usually cost, right? It usually comes down to what does each party think it's worth. So so nothing new, but we're really pushing it in terms of a key parcel in the redevelopment.
Okay.
Moving on, again, the Plainfield corridor, creating public spaces along the Plainfield Avenue corridor. This is something that the Reimagine Plainfield plan identified as key. We really want to create some energy on the corridor. Some public space is a great way to do that. And we don't have a specific area or specific opportunity identified yet. This might be a good place for us to use some of that ARPA funds to make some of this happen in conjunction with some other funding opportunities. But this year, what I anticipate is we'll do some planning on this, explore opportunities and revenue sources to accomplish that goal, and put some plans together. And then the fourth objective under economic development is obtain additional redevelopment liquor licenses. These are different than the ones that are assigned to community every 10 years that we had just got a new allocation and reassigned those. Redevelopment liquor licenses are limited in the fact that you can't relocate them to other communities in the township. They have to stay in that. They're specific to that parcel. The other piece too, you can't do them township-wide. It would have to be within that redevelopment area. So the Corridor Improvement Authority would be one, the Downtown Development Authority could be another, where we could apply for those licenses. And then That does open up the doors for, part of the board's hesitancy in the past of handing out available licenses where, what if that better project comes along just the next day? And so this really takes away some of that hesitancy because we'll have some future incentives for the corridor as well.
Is there a number that would be permitted within a district?
There is. I don't know the exact number, but there is a calculation state uses for what is the right density of number of licenses that would be available. It would be certainly multiple in this area, though. We're talking about a relatively large stretch, so we're talking about multiple licenses. Moving on to goal 2, infrastructure. Create a facility asset management plan to guide the capital improvement. We've been talking about this for a while, where Jen and I have been meeting with Fishbeck to work through this. They've inputted a lot of the data into a spreadsheet. We're still kind of working through fine-tuning it. Some of the results, sometimes you put all the data in and you look at the end result and say that doesn't quite square up with what we think it should be. And then so you go and review the data and make sure it's accurate. And so we're going through that process right now to make sure that the data that's been put into the model makes sense and is accurate so that the output is accurate as well. But once we have that completed, then we can move to that final step, which is to put that plan, that long-term plan together. And then next objective is replace the buildings and grounds building. Not something that we'll actually have a building up by the end of this year. It's gonna be a longer project than that. Currently negotiating with the purchase of the neighboring parcel. That's going well. Plan to have something back to the board in the next couple of months here. And then with that, then we'll have to work with Fishbeck on a design, first do a needs analysis. What's the square footage we need? How does it need to be laid out? What's our needs? And then look at preliminary design there. The next objective was to create a campus master plan for the structures located here at 6161 Belmont. The real impetus there is Fire Station 1, which we've talked about before, is aging and inadequate for some of the needs of the changes in the fire staffing and fire service. So we want to look at that. There's also some deficiencies in how this building is working for us. So we want to look at that and make a long-term plan for this campus and see what are our needs down the road. So we'll work with Fishbeck on needs analysis and design concepts for that as well. Objective 4, improve the overall condition of local roads in the township. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we're still under infrastructure. And so continue to work with the road commission to best address ways to stretch funding. Again, back to Kent County's ARPA funding, they did give $8 million to the road commission for improving the road network. Some of that will go to primary roads, some of that will go to local roads, just additional money that Kent County Road Commission can put into the road network, and we'll have to explore and make sure that we're capitalizing and getting the most of that as well. Then objective 5 under infrastructure, acquire homes that are at risk for flooding.
I'm sorry, can we go back and speak to the roads? I know when we were on the Committee of Reimagine Plainfield, we talked about there was a year when the road commission was going to come in, and it's on their calendar when they planned, and we were going to incorporate some things in Plainfield. Do you know what year that is?
Yeah, so talking about Plainfield Avenue, it's because it's a state trunk line, MDOT is planning a major resurfacing of that, and so is it 2024 or 25?
They're releasing the RFP for the engineering from this year, so yeah, I think it's 24, 25.
Okay, so we're in that cycle, and so our transportation planner at Progressive, who works with Suzanne, has been working with them and making sure that they know that we want to be working on that if there's any redesign elements that need to be incorporated, that's the time to do it. So, yep. Okay, so objective 5, this is something we've been working on for a number of years now. Acquire homes that are at risk for flooding and create unnecessary costs for the operation of the sewer system. They also, additionally, they put a lot of pressure on public safety as well. There's inevitably there's some sort of emergency or rescue that needs to happen in flooding events, that is a extra burden and safety risk to our public safety officers. So we'll continue to explore opportunities and make purchases when prudent. Right now with real estate, the real estate market being still hot in the local market, a lot of these properties are probably overvalued right now. They can get more as a house than they would for the township to acquire it and tear it down at what we see as a reasonable cost to do so. So we'll have to watch that, and if the market cools off and opportunities appear, then we can explore that.
Wasn't there a home here on the river that just burned down? Are we actively trying to pursue that one?
NOP Elam has an eye on that one, yeah. So we'll see what happens with that one.
The one on Everidor?
Objective 6, replace lost well field capacity with support, to support the current and future growth of the Plainfield water system. So we'll continue to work on this one. So far, every investigated area has hit roadblocks. So we've literally looked in every direction around the water plant. We've either found problems of inadequate supply or inadequate quality. And so we're starting to look back at some of the first places we've looked and explore the roadblocks that we're running into. Are they insurmountable roadblocks, or are they just something that we have to do a little extra work to make that happen? Some of the initial investigations, when you run into a small roadblock, you start looking the other direction. Well, then you run into a bigger roadblock, so then you turn around and look at that first direction again. So we're continuing to explore that. It's not something where we're going to be drilling a well field this year. It's going to take some time, some investigation, and figure out what makes the most sense. So Brian Neuhoff has taken a new focus on that. We met with them late last year and looked at every option we've explored so far and say, let's re-rank these. What are the most promising of these options, and which ones are just clearly off the table? And so we went through that process again to say, where do we focus our energy again, and what makes the most sense for us right now? Public safety. So public safety was a clear goal for the board, and some of these are things that we've started to address already. Others are things that are going to take some time and probably past the end of this strategic plan to address all of these issues. One of those is exploring opportunities to work with neighboring communities to develop a regional fire authority. That's not something that's going to happen overnight. Look at what happened with the North Kent Sewer Authority, right? That took, for those that were involved, that took a significant amount of time to make that happen, and often it takes some sort of outside influence to make that happen, some sort of pressure, either a cost increase, significant cost increase, or what we're going through right now with fire is a inability to find staffing, and we're not the only ones. So maybe the time is right to get our neighbors interested in working together, and it doesn't have to look like one joint department from the start. There might be ways for us to work together collaboratively, more so than just mutual aid that we've been doing to this point. So we'll continue to look at that, but we're not going to jump on everything just because it's together. Last year we explored opportunities with the City of Rockford. We thought we had something going that would make sense for both communities, but then as we dug into it further, we realized it wasn't going to save money for anyone, and so we had to walk away from that one. And it's too bad, because it was a good opportunity to mesh our fire departments together a little bit better, but we didn't see any cost savings materializing from it. So that didn't pan out, but that doesn't mean there's not other opportunities to explore down the road. And objective 2, improve staffing levels in our fire department. You're aware that we added 3 full-time positions at the beginning of last year. We've added 3 more positions at the beginning of this year. Chief, since you're in the room, do you care to talk about this issue? You want? Nope? Okay.
We know better.
Yeah, you show up for the meeting, you got to talk, so.
Yeah, we've converted in 2022 3 part-time positions to full-time positions, and doing the same thing this year. We on Sunday and today, 2 of those 3 new equipment operators have started their full-time career with Plainfield. We are in the process of interviewing for the first time in 30 years outside candidates to fill full-time positions. They've through the written examination process, they have had an orientation next, I think on the 21st. We'll be doing practical sessions with oral interviews on the 25th, and hopefully have that 3rd position filled beginning of February or 2nd week of February. With that said, we've also lost a full-time lieutenant to the city of Grand Rapids. So with all the efforts that the township has put together about make sure our wages were competitive, our benefits were competitive, which they are. This gentleman still chose to leave because he wants to be able to serve how did he put it, a lower social economic population, so a more diverse population than what Plainfield could offer. So his last shift will be the end of, I think, the January 30th. So we're in that process right now. We're taking applications inside and outside to fill that position, with hopefully filling that position by the end of February. Our part-time staff is starting to build. We have a large, in my sense, a large population of students going to the fire academy. I think we have a half a dozen that are either fire trained or they're EMS trained, so one or the other. So them 6 are on the way in one of the academies to become fully trained with. I have 2 cadets that are both high school students that are in the fire academy, so grabbing them young, hopefully keep them in the service with us. And I have a couple that are not trained at all. So the applications are starting to roll in. So I did the payroll today and we're at 40 again. So that's good. That's good. So any questions on staffing? Oh, okay, thanks. Yep.
So obviously, it's something that we need to continue to monitor. We're at a better place than we were, but that doesn't mean that our needs won't change or staffing won't fluctuate over time. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Then the next question is, how do we pay for it? We've done well so far paying for it, but we also recognize that increasing our full-time staffing in fire is increasing our cost for for staffing as well. So we'll talk about that at a future meeting. What are our funding options for fire? And it's not just staffing, it's also the increasing costs for apparatus, for stations, all the things that come with it. So we'll talk about that as well. And getting onto the 4th goal, building community. So building community is a number of different things tied into one goal, has a number of objectives. Objective 1, continue regular communication with township residents through various methods. So you're familiar that we've moved to a full-time communications position, and CJ has really hit the ground running. And we've come out this last week with a revamped e-newsletter. Hopefully you had a chance to take a look at that. It has a little bit more user interoperability with that. It links to more things. There's a lot more involved with that than we've done in the past. Expanded social media presence. And we're also exploring other opportunities for outreach and looking at reaching segments of the population that we haven't been reaching very well in the past or reaching at all. So trying to figure out how we hit everyone. We recognize that not everyone gathers their information and obtains information the same way. Some people are print material, some people are social media, some people are video. There's a variety of ways. Some people are word of mouth. So getting out and talking to people is sometimes the only way to catch some people. So Objective 2, improve public signage in the township. The board had approved 2 new gateway signs into the township, replacing the one on the Beltline and at Belmont Avenue. So those will be going up shortly. Also looking for other places too to refresh that appearance and get that name recognition out there. Create opportunities for additional community events in the township. Familiar with Mill Creek Days, the DDA brought that back, so we'll be working with them as well to help promote that. And looking for other opportunities as well. So a lot of the big events that happen in Plainfield are things that are brought in by outside organizations, whether they be the LPGA Tour, which is a pretty big event, the Mai Tai Triathlon, that's quite an event too. Both pull people from multi-state regions. Mill Creek Days is probably not going to pull people from multi-state regions, probably a little bit more local, but that's okay too, because it's a completely different kind of event. So a variety of things to address a variety of needs in the township. And then the fourth one, improving recreational opportunities in the township. We got a lot of things planned for this year specifically. Assuming construction prices come in what we had budgeted, we planned the construction of the Jericho Trail and the Airway Pathway. Bill Fisher corrected me, it's the Airway Pathway. Airway Pathway. I don't know.
Sidewalk?
It's not a sidewalk, it's a pathway, he tells me. So, yeah. So that's planned. Improvements at Grand Rogue Park. We have the state grant that was approved a year ago that should be finally able to put into use this year. And then we have the other one, which it looks like we're on the cusp of approval from our last application. It still has to go through the final approval process, but we're in a fundable range for that one. So that's looking promising as well. So between the two of them, we're going to be putting in over $1 million of improvements into the park. That's going to have better parking areas, better accessibility, better kayak access onto the inland body of water, as well as fishing access onto the Rogue River, a number of amenities there for our residents and visitors. And then the last item, something that we've needed to address for a while, is upgrading some of our playground equipment. As Bill can attest to, we've taken out some of the old playground equipment at Gold Dust and Airway to get ready for the new stuff that's going to go in this spring. So as soon as the equipment arrives and the ground is ready for it, we'll put those in so kids can get playing on them. So, and then there'll be others to follow down the road as funding is available. We need to address some other parks as well and do some updates there as well. And that is it. We made it through the list.
Does anyone on the board have any questions for Cameron? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time that you put into us, and it's not a lot of new stuff, but reminding how big our plate is. Any other discussions? No new business? Cameron, superintendent's comments?
All right. I'm going to address Mr. Dykema's question. So just so the board is aware, the gravel operation on Coit that he's referring to, their mining permit did expire the end of last year. That's why their extension is in front of the Planning Commission, will come in front of the board. At this time, they are permitted to remove previously mined materials. That was a condition. We can talk afterward, James, but they shouldn't be hauling on. So if that's happening, that I wasn't aware of that. If you've been talking with Pete or who else, I don't know. We could talk afterward. But so we're continuing to monitor that one. one that needs a lot of restoration work, so a lot of work will have to happen there yet. Yeah, it'll be coming to you with some more detail, so. Couple other items to bring to your attention. Christmas tree drop-off at Versluis. I imagine most people have probably gotten rid of their live tree by now. If they haven't, there's still an opportunity to drop it at Versluis. Road Commission is grinding them up, and it's pine tree mulch is not necessarily the nice bark that you'd put in your landscaping, but hey, we can put it on some of our park trails and whatnot. So we'll grind that up. Reminder: there's no second meeting in January. We've adjusted the calendar, and there was some confusion on that. So the final motion that we recorded there, we've dropped the second meeting for January, February, June, July, and then December was already dropped. So those 5 months. So our next meeting will be on February 13. We'll have a meeting February 13, and then again March 13, followed up with a second meeting in March that will be an infrastructure workshop. And so Kevin Gritters will be here, and we'll dig into all the projects that we've got going on for this year. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Cameron? Any board members have questions?
Got one question.
Bill?
Cameron, I've been waiting to see those floats out there on the little lake by our water plant where they're gonna have that. When's that coming in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't heard a timeline from them yet, so need to reach out to them again and see if they have any update for us.
Anybody else have questions?
I
Cameron?
have a question.
Kathy?
I'm going to go back to that. We can't get that Plainfield, Reimagine Plainfield to the river until June. I'm curious, does that make us vulnerable in that area? Because we saw some structure go up that we weren't all together pleased with. And so I'm just curious, does that make us vulnerable? And is there any way we can speed that up before June?
It doesn't make us vulnerable because this is different than zoning, right? So zoning is what allows, that's the regulatory piece. This is more putting in the incentive piece. So from that perspective, no. Yes, if we can accelerate it before then, we will do so. I'm just trying to give our attorneys a little leeway. I don't want to box them in a little too much there, so.
Board members' comments. Bill?
I noticed that they're getting ready to have the fish dinners down there at the Legion for Lent and everything. And that's very good, incidentally. They do a good job. So I encourage you to go down there and try that. And they're very helpful and very good deal. So, and that's what we have to get ready for is Lent, coming up.
Coming. Frank?
No, thank you.
Kathy?
I think I'm good. I do appreciate the public comments, though, and although we didn't discuss a whole lot, we certainly heard you, so.
Jack?
Yeah, I want to do a report on Rockford's Got Talent. I don't know if you guys were aware of it. We've been publishing it on Facebook, different acts and everything. Our Rockford's Got Talent met on Saturday night. The high school auditorium was about 2/3 full. Great time. We've raised over $40,000 for 50% of which goes to the Rockford Library and 50% of it goes to RACE, which we are using. One of the things that we did do is contribute $5,000 towards the Rockford Band. And I don't know if you happened to see the Rockford Band at the Roseboat Parade, but I was watching it and they went to a commercial just when the
Oh,
band
no.
went through. And the other station, there was on 2 stations. The other station had it fine, but they did stream it, so I did see that. One of the other things on RACE, we've been trying to rebrand ourselves and become more open to the public and have people understand more about what we're doing. And one of the things we are going to be doing is news from our RACE meetings now will be sent to our township clerks. So you will be getting that, and whatever you want to do with it, I'm not sure. Everybody, you want to put it in our mailboxes or whatever, that would be something that you can look forward to. So yeah, it was a good time Saturday night, and appreciated it all. I did the financing for it and kept the books, so that was kept me kind of busy, so.
Kathy?
I think I'm all set.
And Cameron, any additional comments? Okay, I just wanted to, I was going to mention the Rose Parade also, and as proud as we are of Rockford Marching Band, there's one thing that none of us can possibly understand, that all the students that got to march now, there's an aroma with that parade that is mind-boggling. And all of us who watch it on television don't even think about the aroma, but the bands and everybody else are walking through this huge aroma of all those flowers. And it was truly very, very special. Any additional comments from anyone?
Just one more thing, good news for us. I heard on the news that the football player for the Buffalo Bills was flown back to Buffalo today. So he's recovered. And that brings the point back that we do have one of those units out here in our lobby to resuscitate people that they used on him. So that was a good investment, and I like that thought. So.
Thank you. That's a very fine way to finish our meeting. The meeting's adjourned.